Okay, so Councillor Tugwell, I can confirm that we are now live on YouTube if you'd like to start the meeting. Thank you.
Good evening and a warm welcome to a virtual meeting of the Central and South Planning Committee of the London Borough of Hillingdon. This is a virtual meeting that is also being broadcast simultaneously on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon London. My name is Councillor Steve Tuckwell and I am the chairman of this evening's meeting. Now, all members and officers that are supporting this evening's proceedings will be well versed in the online housekeeping protocols. That's around your mute buttons and your microphones. On that, we can then move on to an attendance roll call that we have to participate in. So when I call your name, if you could just confirm that you are in attendance. And we'll start this evening with the Vice Chairman, Councillor Chapman.
Good evening, Chairman. Yes, I'm present.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan, the Labour lead.
Yes, present, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ahmed Walana.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
Good evening. Councillor Brightman.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
Thank you. Councillor Chamdale.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Tubadar.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
Good evening. Councillor Bira.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
Good evening to you. And Councillor Dillon.
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, everybody. I am present.
Okay, good. Okay, we also have to do the same process for the officers supporting this evening. So I'll start with our Highways Officer, Alan Tilley.
Good evening, Chairman. Present.
Good evening to you. Our Planning Officer this evening, Meg Harani.
Good evening, everyone. Present.
Good evening. Our Head of Planning this evening, James Roger.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
Good evening. Our Democratic Services Officer this evening, Liz Penny.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
And our Legal Advisor, Kerry Munro.
Good evening, Chairman. I am present.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Liz, is that everybody present?
Yes, it is, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. In terms of technical meeting control, if any councillor leaves the virtual meeting partway through for a lost connection, etc., then I will continue unless we are not quorum, which we know is 3 councillors. Importantly, any councillor who does leave the meeting this evening for a period of time will not be able to vote on that item that they were not present on. Okay, that's the housekeeping and the attendance covered off. So we can now start to move into the main body of the agenda this evening. So we'll start with agenda item 1 this evening. Liz, apologies for absence.
No apologies this evening, Chairman.
Okay, good. Agenda item 2 this evening is declarations of interest in matters before this evening's meeting. Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one on the yellow papers. It's 18 Skipton Drive.
Okay, so you will be...
I will not be voting on that item.
Okay, I'm going to look at the screen. I take it that they're all of those minutes as agreed.
Okay,
agenda item 4 is matters notified in advance or urgent, which we don't have any. Agenda item 5 is to confirm that we have 2 parts of this evening's meeting. Part 1, which is the bit we're in now, which is the public meeting. And then we have a number of applications this evening in part 2. When we get to the end of part 1, we will disconnect the YouTube channel and members and officers will discuss those applications in private. We will be taking the agenda as published this evening, and I can confirm that we have no petitioned items this evening. So we can now begin to move into the main body of the agenda, which is to start discussing this evening's applications. And I'd like to invite Meg to present to us agenda item 6, which is 54 Church Road, Hayes. Meg, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. 54 Church Road, Hayes is an end terrace property situated close to the junction with Townfield Road. The application before you is for a first floor rear extension and the conversion of the roof space to habitable use to include a rear dormer. And the property has been extensively extended previously. It's had a 2-storey side extension, single-storey rear extension as well. And the current application for a first floor rear extension complies fully with the council's documents and policies, as the rear dormer as well complies. When we look at the plans, it fits in with the roof, the extended roofscape. Members may consider it fairly large, but when they see the adjoining property, they'll see why it's been recommended for approval. If I can just go to the presentation.
Yeah, we can see that, Meg. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's an end of terrace of 4 properties. It's not in any restricted area, and the hatched area is the rear extension that's being proposed, the first floor, and these are the existing. The conservatory has been removed, as you'll see from the photographs. The site is or was the subject of enforcement action, and they've complied with the enforcement proceedings. So there are a number of issues that needed dealing with, and they have complied with that. So there was a front extension which has now gone, and the conservatory to the rear, which has also gone. So the proposal is for this extension and then this dormer here. As the rear extension complies in terms of the 45 degrees from both adjoining properties, and the dormer, as I said, it may look slightly larger than we would approve generally, but it is adjoining a very large dormer on the next door property. That's the aerial. This is the property, the adjoining property here, and then the property already has a single-storey rear extension and then the 2-storey side extension here. So this is the attached property here, and as members can see, very large rear dormer done under permitted development, and it would be difficult for us to say no to the dormer that's being proposed in the light of what's existing next door. So the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you for that, Meg. Right, we have no petitions or anything from ward councillors on this one, Liz?
No, we haven't received anything from ward councillors.
Nothing at all. It's not a petition item, so I can literally throw open for debate. Councillor Duncan, you indicated.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, it does seem to be a development in line with all our policies. Meg did say there had been enforcement action, the conservatory removed and a front extension removed. So it does look as if efforts are being made to bring all the development in line with our policies. So I would like to move the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you for that, Councillor Duncan. Councillor Dillon, I see you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I don't have any issues with it in the main. What I would like to propose is that if I'm able to second it, and that's if we're all in agreement, and Meg says we're allowed to do this, I would like to have any potential future applications for any conversion to a HMO removed. Is that possible?
Can you comment on that?
We can put an additional condition on which restricts it to a single family dwelling. So any applications for HMO or conversion to further flats will require permission if we put that condition on.
Then I'll be second.
Sorry, if I can just chime in with respect, Chairman. If we were to put a condition in, we would have to have reasons to support it as well. So maybe if we have a discussion about that, that would be helpful.
Okay, thank you for that, Kerry. Meg, anything you can add to the point that Kerry's raised there? I'm sure that we can with members. I'm getting a sense that members are in favour of that. So, Meg, I mean, can you come on that?
Yeah, I mean, the reasons why members might want to restrict conversion or HMO, there are issues that might arise in relation to the impact on adjoining properties or issues relating to parking and so on. So members may want to have a discussion around those issues, really.
Okay, Thank you for that, Meg. Councillor Dillon, I saw you had your hand up, followed by Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Church Road is a particularly busy road. Double yellow lines on the main road. Looking at the plans, it's quite a tight area for any parking. Subsequently, any off-street parking then becomes at a premium, and it's already busy, already overcrowded. That would be the main reason for it. I would also assume, well, it needs investigation, but there are a number of HMOs along this road already. Whether they are licensed or not, I would not know at the moment, but that needs investigation. So yes, those are my reasons for requesting it.
Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I mean, I think the thing is that this is putting in an additional very large bedroom in the roof. And so, whereas before it was a more modest dwelling that would, you know, accommodate 6 or less people, now this additional accommodation has brought it into the realm of more than 6 people being able to be accommodated here. So there is this possibility or threat of HMO use. So I think that's a reason why we could reasonably say it's been enlarged to the point where it would fall into the category of HMO and could be let out in that way. So that's another reason that I would have concerns about. But I also endorse what Councillor Dillon has said about this being a busy road. It's there are parking issues in the area as well, and it would have an impact on neighbouring properties, I believe, if it did become an HMO rather than a single family dwelling. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Right, I've got Councillor Ahmed Wallana and Councillor Brightman. So we'll go to Councillor Ahmed Wallana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think very valid reasons have been proposed by Councillor Dillon and Councillor Duncan. So I support this proposal. It is indeed a very busy area and congested. So this would be very helpful.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed Wallana. Councillor Brightman, then followed up by James Rogers. So Councillor Brightman.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to echo my previous councillors insofar as it is also a very busy bus route. So the congestion could be potentially quite dangerous.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Brightman. James, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I was just going to quickly say that Kerry's absolutely right to highlight when you're imposing a perhaps slightly more onerous condition that you need to explain why that's happening. But I think members have clearly set out a number of reasons. So I'm completely happy that there's a case for adding the additional condition proposed by Councillor Dillon in this case.
Okay, thank you, James. Right, I'm not seeing anybody else indicating, but some good scrutiny of the additional conditions. So thank you for adding to that debate. I'm not seeing anybody indicate, so we can go straight to the vote. So we'll start with Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, go with the officer's recommendation plus the extra conditions.
Thank you. Councillor Ahmed Wallana.
Go with the officer's recommendation subject to the proposed conditions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Brightman.
Go with officer's recommendations with the conditioning. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chamdow.
Yeah, go with officer's recommendations.
Thank you. Councillor Tubadar.
For approval and the conditions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan, you moved, so we'll go to Councillor Bira.
I go with the officer's recommendation.
Thank you.
With the conditions on.
Thank you, Councillor Bira, and Councillor Dillon, you seconded and proposed the additional conditions. So I make that a unanimous decision to approve this application. We've delegated authority to officers to word up a condition that restricts the use of an HMO. Can you confirm that, Liz?
That's confirmed, Chairman, yes.
Okay, thank you. I can confirm agenda item 6 is approved. Thank you, everybody. Okay, let's move swiftly on then to agenda item 7, which is 159 Charville Lane, Hayes. So Meg, can you be so kind to take us through that one?
Thank you, Chairman. This is relating to 159 Charville Lane. There is extensive history on this property, and members will see from the agenda on pages, if I can get to it. Yeah. So on pages 22 and 23, the relevant history has been set out again. We have had to resort to enforcement action in this case, and the subject application that we've got before us is for a variation of condition. We've approved the landscaping scheme. This is a new dwelling that's been approved with a number of conditions which need to be complied with, and one of those was landscaping. We did approve a landscaping scheme, and this is an application to vary that scheme. Through the course of the application, we have had a number of revisions to this application, and now the landscaping scheme is in fact very similar to the one that was approved previously, so we are recommending it for approval. There is an addendum on this item. There are two plans being replaced with new plans that have been received. In essence, they don't change the layout or what's being proposed. It's just an additional further details, including the height of the fence and the details of the shed in terms of its size. So that is on the plans that is before members, but we've got additional details that have been submitted with these plans. There's also an additional condition being proposed just to tie the timescales down further in terms of submission of details and the carrying out of works. So as I said before, we are approving, or the current application is very similar to the approved landscape scheme. If I go to the plans, so this is the site. It is in the greenbelt, and as I said before, there's extensive history about the development of the original dwelling that has been approved, and it has been built as set out and in accordance with the plans. This is the proposed plan, and it's a 3D, so we've got further details about the height of the fence and the size of the shed. That's the site. As you can see, it is at the moment fully hard standing, and that's not what we would normally be found acceptable in the greenbelt. So the scheme that we're hoping, or we are saying, should be carried out within 2 months of the permission is putting back a lot of the landscaping that was taken out. This is the front of the site, and then the rear. So the condition that the additional condition that's being proposed is to get further details about, in the main, the frontage treatment, the fencing, and the details of the gates. With that, we are recommending the application. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Meg. Just to remind members, we are looking at the minor amendment to the condition, not the overall scheme itself, which has already been approved. Councillor Chamdal, you indicated.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a shame they didn't do that in the first place, wasting time going through enforcement. I mean, the pictures tell a story. It definitely do. Looking at exactly what the state of the building is at the moment, looks like a car park with a building in the middle. Quite appalling, especially in an area where it is. So, you know, the report says it all. I'll go with the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Chamdal. I've got Councillor Duncan and Councillor Brightman. So, Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to check with Meg that the proposal does still include tree planting, because digging up all that concrete and tarmac and various other stuff, which I'm sure isn't sustainable urban drainage for a start, you're going to have to leave quite a bit of space as well for trees to grow and expand. But it is necessary to have that, and it is a characteristic of the area. So I just wanted to ask for confirmation of that. But subject to that, I'm happy to second it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Before we go to Councillor Brightman, Meg, can you come in on the point around trees?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I can confirm that there are a number of trees that have been set out on the plans. They're in the main on the boundary with the green belt to the rear and to the front. So other than that, you've got in the main lawn with planting areas to the sides, which is for general gardening, I suppose. The main trees are to be sited on the rear boundary and on the frontage. Thank you, Chairman.
I can see you nodding, Councillor Duncan. So, okay, you're good. Councillor Brightman.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to say that I welcome the idea of it going back to a proper garden instead of a car park. So, you know, it has my vote.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brightman. I think you echoed a few sentiments of all the members on this meeting. So, okay, I'm not seeing anybody else indicate. So I think we can go to a vote on this one, and we'll start with Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. Go with officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ahmed Walana.
Go with the officer's recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Brightman.
Go with officer's recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Chamdal. You moved the application, so we'll go to Councillor Tubadar.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. You seconded, so we'll go to Councillor Birra.
I go with the officer's recommendation, Chairman.
Thank you, and Councillor
Thank
Dillon.
you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dillon.
Approval, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, Liz, I make that unanimous to approve agenda item 7 this evening. Can you confirm?
Yep, that's confirmed, Chairman.
Okay, agenda item 7 therefore is approved. Thank you, everybody. Okay, swiftly we'll move on to, it wouldn't be Central and South without a telephone mast, and we have had this one in front of us before. So agenda item 8, land in front of the Renaissance Hotel in the Bath Road. So Meg, can you walk us through this one, please?
Very quickly, Chairman. This is, as Councillor Tuckwell said, an application that members have seen before. It was reported to the committee on the 1st of July. This application is for exactly the same equipment, monopole, 7 equipment cabinets, etc., and the removal of the existing equipment. But during their early sort of research, if you like, I think the company found that the site that they originally proposed had a number of services going through it, which prevented them from siting the mast in the position that was approved. So the current application is to site it further to the east rather than to the west of the current site. And other than that, it is as was approved previously. The issue is that if members were to grant this permission, then there would be permission for 2 masts within 20 metres of each other. So what we are proposing is a 106 agreement to revoke the permission that was previously granted and to have only the 1 permission. With that, we are recommending approval. Members will have probably noted that there is a condition missing, which we usually have on our mast applications, which is that we would normally have a condition which requires that any apparatus which becomes redundant or out of use should be removed when it is no longer required. And I would request delegated authority to the head of planning to put that condition on as well. If I just go to the presentation. So the original site was here and it's moving in this direction towards here. So you can see that, and those are the submitted plans. This is the existing site plan with the mast and the equipment cabinet. There at the moment is a 14.5 metre mast, and what's proposed is a 20 metre mast with the retention of some cabinets and some additional cabinets, totaling 7 in all. The original position was approximately 13 metres in this direction, and what's being proposed is approximately 13 metres in this direction. We feel that there's very little difference in visual terms between the site that was previously proposed and the site that's currently being proposed, and therefore we are recommending approval. So the site comes in this direction towards the front of the photograph, and that's just across the road. So we are recommending approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you for taking us through that, Meg, and thanks for picking up the point around the fifth redundancy condition, which I'm sure members would have picked up with. Okay, Councillor Chapman, I saw you indicated very early there.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I've got no issues in principle with this at all. I'm glad to see that the missing condition is going to be put in. I was going to mention that. It's got the condition already about removing redundant equipment, and obviously we're going to revoke the old one. On that basis, I'm more than happy to propose that we approve it. The only question I have, based on the last photo, I'm conscious that the revised location will be in front of the road sign. And I'm just wondering whether the height of the cabinets might obscure the road sign, but I don't think it will. If you can give me clarification on that, and assuming that's the case, that it won't obscure anything, I'm more than happy to propose that we approve.
Okay, thank you. I can see Alan Tilley indicating there. So do you want to pick up Councillor Chapman's point?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, Councillor Chapman, that point was picked up by officers, and there are no concerns that the cabinets would obscure the directional sign. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you for that, Alan. Councillor Chapman, you happy with that?
Yeah, that's fine, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Duncan, then followed by Councillor Dillon.
Yes, I think we've seen this before, as has been mentioned. It's just moving slightly east. I'm happy to second, Chair.
Okay, no, thank you for that, Councillor Duncan. Councillor Dillon, did you want to add anything?
Mr. Chairman, just a question for Meg. How are the Section 106 discussions going? Are they, as far as revoking the other permission?
Thank you, Chairman. We have discussed this with the applicants and their agents, and they are happy to sign the 106. As I said, the reason why they want to move the site is because there are a large number of services where the original site was, so they feel that it will be far too costly and so on to put it in that position, so they don't intend to put a mast in that position, so they are happy to revoke the permission that was previously granted.
Okay, Councillor Dillon, you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. Just a question though. You never know, people, and I trust very few. Would it not be sensible normally to have that in place prior? It's just a question, not that I'm going to change my mind.
Thank
I
you,
think
Chairman.
Councillor Dillon's looking for some belt and braces here, I think.
Yeah. So what happens so 106 is proposed in this case, which would revoke the permission, and we would not release the permission that's been granted, or if members agree it this evening, we would not release that permission until the 106 has been signed. So they would then commit themselves to the revocation before they get this permission. Thank you, Chairman.
I can see Councillor Dillon nodding there.
Yes, that's right. The legal officer. So it's held. It's on a conditional basis that they have one or the other.
Okay, good. No, thank you, everybody, and a good question to ask, and some good scrutiny from this committee. So I'm not seeing any other councillors indicate. So we are moved and we are seconded. So let's go to the vote. Councillor Chapman, you moved. So we'll go straight to Councillor Ahmed Walana.
For the recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. And let's not forget we've got the additional delegated powers to officers to add the additional condition. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Brightman.
Go with the officer's recommendation and delegated powers.
Thank you. Councillor Chamdale.
Yeah, go with the officer's recommendation with all the other bits and pieces.
Thank you. Councillor Tubadar.
For the officer's recommendation and the conditions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan, you seconded. Councillor Bira.
I'll go with the officer's recommendation, Chairman, with the conditions on.
Thank you. And Councillor Dillon.
Yes, officer's recommendation with all the associated conditions.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Right. Liz, I'll make that unanimous for agenda item 8 this evening with delegated authority for an additional condition that talks about a removal of any redundant equipment in the future.
That's correct,
Okay.
Chairman. Yep.
Okay, I can confirm agenda item 8 is approved. Thank you, everybody. Okay, let's move on to agenda item 9. Waterloo Road, Uxbridge, which is another phone mast. Meg?
Thank you, Chairman. As you said, this is an application for a phone mast. It is a lattice mast. There is a current mast on the site which is 15 metres high, and the proposal is to remove that and replace it with one which is 30 metres high. If members can imagine, 15 metres is approximately 4.5 storey building. So this is a proposal for, in essence, 8 to 9 storey building. In terms of its height, obviously, in terms of its bulk and so on, it's slightly less than that. But in terms of its height, you're talking about approximately an 8.5, 9 storey building. So it is a very high building. It is sited in the main, although there are other uses that are surrounded. It is sited in the main within a residential area, and it is also right on the canal edge, so it will have a considerable visual impact, and obviously with its height it can be seen from quite some distance. So if I go to the presentation, there are a couple of photographs on there which show the visibility of the current mast, and then members can imagine the increase in height and how more visible the proposed mast would be. So this is the site. As members can see, this in the main a residential area all around it, the canal edge here. And it does have a compound around it. It is a open fence, if you like, so you do get some visibility of the cabinets, but in the main it's the mast that's the main visual impact. That's the proposed site plan, the existing elevation, and the proposed. So it is slightly bulkier as you go up, and obviously twice the height of the current one, which is unfortunately not illustrated by the original plan. So and this is the view you get from Duke's Way, and then further away from Waterloo Road, and if members can imagine, it will be somewhere up in that position there. So it is going to be a very high mast, and that's the view from Culvert Lane and the canal side. So we feel that it will have a considerable visual impact, and for that reason we are recommending refusal. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much for taking us through that, Meg. Okay, I've got Councillor Chamdale followed by Councillor Tubadar. So, James, did you want to come in before? Did you want to come in before councillors?
Yeah, I'm just coming. Obviously, hopefully, members appreciated when Meg G was showing the elevational treatment. They've been a bit crafty, the applicant, and done the plans at different scales. So the existing plan was a different scale from the proposed, whereas normally you're used to seeing comparisons of existing proposed, but they're using the same scale. So yeah, if we do go back to the plans, please do bear that point in mind. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, no, thank you, James. Councillor Chamdale.
Thank you for the interruption, James. I was going to say, first of all, you know, we've got enough experience in looking at these things, but numbers don't lie. It's simple. I don't want to waste too much time on this. It's just a crazy. From 15 to 30, I mean, come on. You know, I don't know how they would even put this forward as an application. So I'm more than happy to go with the officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor Chamdale. Councillor Tubadar.
I would like to express the same opinion. From 15 to 30 meters and the visual impact it has on the area, I totally support the officer's recommendation on this one. And I would like to second it if possible.
Okay, no, thank you. I'm not seeing anybody else indicate. Oh, Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I agree with what's been said. In the reasons for refusal, I think the photograph showed how this is going to be seen from a much wider area. And I wonder if we could just perhaps strengthen this reason for refusal, although I do think it speaks for itself. Where it says siting the equipment and cabinets would create an obtrusive form of development visually harmful to the street scene, the canal which bounds the site, and the surrounding properties. Could we just make that which bounds the site, the surrounding properties, and the wider area? Because this is going to be seen. I don't think we've got anything of almost 100 feet high, you know, in this kind of area, and would be totally contrary to all our policies on the canal as well. And also, I notice it talks about the local visual amenities, but this is the immediate properties, as we know and can see from the plan, are residential. So I wonder if somewhere we can mention the residential character and amenities of the immediate area as well. Anyway, they're just things that I thought might strengthen the reason for refusal should there be any appeal, and people would have to argue that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Duncan. I have seen Councillor Dillon indicate, but we'll let Meg come in and see if we can do anything to enhance the wording on the refusal reason. Meg, anything we can do there?
Thank you, Chairman. I think certainly the issue in relation to the impact on the wider area we can incorporate into the condition. So as Councillor Duncan suggested, we could put the wording in relating to and the surrounding properties and wider area as well. In relation to the impact on the immediate properties that surround the site, again, we could add that within the same reason. So it will be visually harmful to the residential properties adjoining the site, the street scene, the canal which bounds the site, surrounding properties and the wider area. And again, we could add those words in into the condition. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Meg. Before we go to Councillor Dillon, I can see James Roger indicating.
Yeah, sorry, unusually I've got a question for Meg Arani. Meg, when you did the presentation, what was the hatched area that included the canal? Is that any designation? Because if it is, then it should be taken into account as part of the refusal reason. Can you clarify from myself and the committee?
Meg, you're still on mute.
You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, if I can just go back to the presentation, then members will see.
There is a hashed area, as James has mentioned.
Yeah. So there are two distinct colours, if you like. The lighter yellowy hatched area is a conservation area. The darker brown hatched areas are listed buildings, either locally listed or statutory listed. My guess is that those are locally listed buildings there on the other side of the canal. So it's conservation area and canal and listed buildings that are hatched. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. James, does that...
Yeah. Can I suggest, I think this needs a second refusal reason that basically, I mean, this is a 30-metre mast. I've got no doubts, and I suspect committee will agree with me, that it's going to harm the heritage assets. So we should have a second reason. So it wouldn't be adding to the first, it would be an additional reason of refusal. If the committee are happy to delegate authority to me to do that.
I'm getting a few nods, but I've also got a couple of councillors that have indicated. So Councillor Dillon, then followed by Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, really just to echo what everyone said, but I'm quite disappointed in this application. It just shows a kind of disregard for any planning policies that we have at the council, and it's so speculative. I mean, they might as well have put a revolving restaurant on top of it. Honestly, yeah, this will certainly be refused, and I hope the applicant is listening to all the comments made.
Okay. Thank you for that, Councillor Dillon. Councillor Duncan.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to move, having heard from James, I would like to move that we do add an additional condition showing the harm to the conservation area, listed buildings or buildings of heritage value, canal. And I don't know if we still have the sort of blue ribbon policies for the canal as well. So it's conservation area, blue ribbon policies for the canal, and listed buildings or buildings of heritage value in the borough. I'd like to propose that as an additional condition with wording to be determined by officers, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. I think we were moved by Councillor Chamdown, unless he doesn't wish to have a second condition added on, but I think we've all got the right sentiment there. Councillor Birra.
Thank you, Chairman. I wanted to second what my colleague said with the conditions what James mentioned.
Okay, thank you for your contribution, Councillor Birra. Right, I'm not seeing any other councillors indicating. Now, we are moved and seconded, and we have had the suggestion of an additional condition around the heritage assets and visual impact. We're going to delegate, one proposing that we delegate this to officers to draw up the wording and add the condition to the application. So we'll go to the vote on that. So we'll start with Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, go with officer's recommendation with the additional condition and the strengthened existing condition.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor Chapman. Councillor Ahmed Walana.
For the recommendations with delegated authority, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Brightman.
Go with officer's recommendations with the additional condition.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Chamdale, you moved, but I'm just going to check that you're happy with the additional. Yep.
Yes,
You're happy with that. Okay. And same for Councillor Chubadar, you seconded, so I take it you're.
Yes, I am for
Okay,
including the conditions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan?
Yes, I'm for with the additional conditions and strengthened original condition. Thank you.
Councillor Bira?
I go with officer's recommendation with the conditions on.
Thank you.
Extra conditions on.
And Councillor Dillon?
Mr. Chairman, with the officer's recommendation, with all the conditions. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Thank you for that. Because again, some good debate from everybody. So thank you for that. I can confirm that's unanimous for agenda item 9 to be refused, with 2 additions here, strengthening the first condition for impact on the wider area and a second condition that looks at the heritage assets and visual impact. Liz, can you confirm that we're...
Yes, Chairman, I can confirm that.
Okay, I can confirm then, everybody. Agenda item 9 this evening is refused. Okay, Liz, that brings us to the end of part 1, doesn't it?
It does indeed. So I will stop the streaming now. If I could just ask all of you
to say to anybody watching on YouTube, thanks for watching. Stay safe, and thank you to officers and members this evening. But we're going to disconnect now and go into part 2. Good night, everybody.